Okay, everybody, so the second part of today is multiplying two binomials together. Remember, binomial means two terms, so we're going to do two terms times two terms. Really, binomials times binomials are not any different than what we just did, except for the fact that you need to break your binomial up into two separate problems. So you can see in this binomial times binomial problem, the first thing I'm going to do is break up my first term and use this first monomial term times the second binomial. That's right here. So you can see 2x times that whole second parentheses. Then I'm going to repeat that process with the other binomial term, which would be the plus 4 times the whole second parentheses. So what I've done is taken my binomial times binomial and I've turned it into two monomial times binomial problems. So when we go through, we know how to do each of these. We can multiply 2x times 3x and we get 6x squared, and then 2x times negative 7 and get negative 14x. We can do 4 times 3x and get 12x, and then 4 times negative 7 and get negative 28. Now, the thing about binomials times binomials is you do end up most of the time with some kind of like term. So in this case, we need to add our negative 14x and positive 12x. Remember, we're adding, not multiplying. So 6x squared minus 2x when you combine your negative 14 and positive 12, and then minus 28 is our answer. So for binomials times binomials, we're going to split it up into two monomials and make them two monomial distributive property problems. Now, there are a lot of ways to do binomials times binomials, and most of them are still just distributive property, but they have a different setup or they have a mnemonic device to help you remember them. I'm going to go over a couple of those, but if the first way made sense to you, feel free to keep doing that. The first other way to talk about binomials times binomials is to organize them into a table. So you'll see that I took my first binomial here and I put it in separate terms, separate columns for the top rows, and then I take my second binomial and I put it in separate columns on the side. Then when you go to multiply those two terms together, in this box we would do 2x times 3x because those are the two monomials that are around that box. So 2x times 3x is 6x squared. If we proceed down, we do 2x times negative 7, that's negative 14x. 3x times 4x is 12x, and then 4 times negative 7 is negative 28. Now you will need to pay attention and remember that these are like terms, and so you'll need to finish combining them before you go about writing your answer. So 6x squared minus 2x minus 28 is our answer here with the table as well. It's just another way to set up the problem and perhaps keep yourself a little more organized. Now, another way or another helpful method is to do what we call foiling, and foiling stands for first, outside, inside, last. It's really just a mnemonic device to help you remember how to do the distributive property. So you'll see down here in my monomial or binomial times binomial, the F stands for first terms. So the first term in the first binomial and the first term in the second binomial get multiplied together. So the F part is 5x times 2x. Then when we talk about O, we talk about the outside terms, so the first and the last. So 5x times 1. And then when we talk about I, we talk about our inside terms, so the two middle terms. So that would be negative 3 times 2x. And then finally, for last, we would talk about the last terms in each polynomial or binomial. So we have negative 3 times 1. Now, please note that all we did was distributive property. So I distributed my 5x to both terms in F and O, and then I distributed my negative 3 to both terms in I and L. So this is really just distributive property, but it's a helpful mnemonic device for remembering those particular terms. So 5x plus 2x is 10x squared. 5x times 1 is 5x. Negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x. And negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Remember to combine your like terms. So my final answer here is 10x squared. And then we have minus x, remember there's an imaginary 1 there, and minus 3 for our answer. So you can go through and you can do your distributive property, you can do the table, or if you like the mnemonic device of FOIL, you can use that to help you multiply any two binomials times binomials. Now I want you to try these 3 problems and try to work on those 3, and I'm going to put my answers up here in a second. So pause the video, do these problems, and then unpause it to check your answers and see how you're doing. You can use any method you want to multiply these. Okay, so you can see I did each of these 3 problems. In the first one, I did the distributive property method where I split it up. In the second one, I did the table property. And then in the last one, I did FOIL. Remember, you could have used any method you wanted so long as you got the final answers in the boxes down here. And all of that's good depending on whichever method you used, as long as you got the right answer. Please note that in letter C, there were no like terms, so I had to have 4 different terms in my answer there. So only combine the like terms if you actually have them. Okay, that's it for binomials times binomials, and then we have one more video to do on polynomials multiplied together.